Greetings in the love and light of the one infinite creator. I'm Andres Vorgan, joined here with Adam, Fred, and Ed, and we will be reading some Nostradamus prophecies about the great genius and the new age and things like this. And so feel free to follow along. Okay. So I guess we'll get started here. Based on excerpts from Conversations with Nostradamus, volumes 1, 2, and 3 by Dolores Cannon. Uncatalogued quatrain number 13. A new ruler anointed rises from the 50th latitude, renews the once great fish. Peace for a millennium. Rome rebuilds, and the divine hand at the ruler's side departs. Earth in renewal, but the scars heal slowly. So just to clarify for audiences, Dolores Cannon does hypnotic regressions on people. And in this case, she was doing hypnotic regressions on people who were going to the spirit world and then appearing as angels to Nostradamus while he was alive, and then asking him for clarifications as to what it is that he meant by his various quatrains. Okay, so he says this quatrain is from one of his better students, and it refers to events. Ed, were you trying to say something? Ed, we can't hear you.
You sound like you're underwater.
I sound like I'm underwater? Hold on. Adam, do I sound okay? Yeah, okay. Adam says I sound okay.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, Fred says I'm good too. Okay. So it's on your end, Ed.
Good.
Yeah, Ed, it sounds like your connection isn't very good. You might need to be in a better reception area. Okay, so what does it mean, the new ruler rising from the 50th latitude? He says this refers to the part of the world the great genius will come from. I thought that might refer to him, but I wasn't sure if the quatrain was his, the peaceful millennium, would fit in with the great genius. Rome rebuilds would be after the destruction, wouldn't it? Yes, that's what he said. He says throughout the first 1,000 years, institutions will try to rebuild, although their nature will be changed forever due to the nature of the things revealed during the war. So yeah, well this is Kiev's latitude 50, but here we'll ask the Grok to give us a list. Give us a list of cities at the 50th latitude. Make it a table. Okay. So, what do we got? Winnipeg, Vancouver, Prague, Kiev, Brussels, Frankfurt, Krakow, Lviv, and Southampton. All right. So those are all potential cities. And now, just teasing apart this quatrain a little more. So new ruler anointed rises from the 50th latitude, renews the once great fish. And anyone can guess who the great fish is?
Pisces,
Jesus.
which is in Pisces.
Oh, well, okay.
That's why they use the fish to represent Jesus. Everybody has the fish on their bumper sticker. That's because he began the Christ consciousness came through him at the beginning of the reign of Pisces. We're going into the age of Aquarius now.
Yes. It was called the Isthmus or something. There we go. So Jesus Christ, the Savior. It's the fish. Very good. All right.
I heard another thing. If you take that fish and you take another one and you put them against each other, it makes this like weird mathematical shape. But
well, maybe you can find that for us. But yeah, this is kind of the fish is the common symbol of Jesus. And so it says peace for a millennium. There's some Benny. There's some noise behind you. Just gotta mute you for a second here. Okay. Okay. Benny, you're muted because there was noise behind you. Okay. Anyways, so peace for a millennium. Rome rebuilds, and the divine hand of the ruler sides departs. Okay, great. Okay. Any comments on this one? Or we want to move on to the next one. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next one. La sacrée pompe viendra basser les aisles par la venue du grand législateur. Humble haul sera vexera les rebelles. Naistra sur terre aucun omeleteur. The sacred pomp will come to lower its wings at the coming of the great lawgiver. He will raise the humble and trouble the rebellious. His like will not again appear on earth. And Nina, this sounds like Jesus, but there is another. This is a time in the future when we will have communication with other galaxies. This group will come and have our world in awe with such truth that people will believe this is the Messiah. And this is the time of great awareness, of great new peace. Does this refer to an individual? This means an individual, but with many followers who have learned to live by these universal laws, they are bringing them to us. When this individual comes, will people think he's Christ? No, this will be different. This individual will come as another person who can walk among you to remind you that Jesus has done this before. They are his brothers in spirit who live by those laws in their world on their planet. They have come to let us know we can also live that way. Then you mean this person will come from another planet? Will he come as a child to be raised here? No. This time that I'm seeing is a communication from another galaxy when they appear on our Earth to share information with us, to show us what we can accomplish as a group. This will be an adult person. Will this man be considered a ruler? He does not want this. He wants to be a teacher. If someone like that were to come, people might think he wants to take over the world. No, this will be made clear. This is not the purpose. This is someone who will help. I see him teaching new ways to live, universal brotherhood, universal law, universal citizenship, showing us other places where there is life, where there is abundance, places where people can live with peace and plenty. He will teach us how we on our earth can do this also. I believe there are many similar to him that will be sent out as teachers to help during this time period. He is not the only one with this knowledge. Most of the people from his planet have the knowledge and philosophy. Will he meet opposition? Yes, but at this point, they have enough power, enough strength, enough telepathy that even his strongest enemies will be turned around. Can Nostradamus see a time period when this might happen? A year, I see at first glance, 2050. Okay. What do you guys think of that?
Far away.
Far away. Well, I don't know. Fred, what do you think?
Doesn't it say right in there that it's he's going to come from Kiev?
Well, I put in the line about Kiev as one of the examples of a city that's located at the 50th latitude, and because I was born in Kiev. But there's other examples of cities that are near the 50th latitude: Winnipeg, Vancouver, Prague, Brussels, Frankfurt, Krakow, Lviv, and Southampton here. Okay.
So you're saying in 25 years you're going to be the new Messiah?
I mean, it's possible, but who knows? We'll see.
You've got the astrological record for it then, according to that.
Yeah, I do. And
but he was raised on this planet, so he's out of there.
No, it actually it says that it doesn't say they, because look, it says, do you mean this person will come from another planet? No. The answer is no. They will not come from another planet. So this will be an adult person at the time that they're famous or whatever. But you see, this is a communication from another galaxy, and I don't know how many of you guys remember being on from another galaxy. You know, anyone else? Anyone else remember being from another galaxy? No. Okay. Well,
That's
I
a little
do.
fuzzy.
It's a little fuzzy. I don't know. I don't know how universal it is. Ashley, hey, how are you doing? Good to see you. Oh, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I came out of a very bad sickness, but now I'm feeling more and more like myself.
Awesome. Great.
But I don't have memories of being from another galaxy, but I do have memories of being other beings and other times and stuff.
On other planets.
Yes.
Yes. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and actually this particular passage does talk about wanderers. So here, it says, I believe there are many similar to him that will be sent out as teachers to help during this time period. He's not the only one with this knowledge. Most of the people from his planet have this knowledge and philosophy. Well, I think that the Confederation of Planets, and then also, because the Confederation of Planets includes people from another galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then one of the other things that I liked is, will he meet opposition? And then they says, yes, but at this point, they have enough power, enough strength, enough telepathy that even his strongest enemies will be turned around. And this is something, at least, that resonates very much with me, because, like, you know how Ra says, or the Confederation of Planets says, that ultimately you don't even have to speak to the individual. What you have to do is you have to process the catalyst. And so I know there have been various times where I've been in somewhat of a, I guess, conflict, you could say, with another entity or another person. And then as I've resolved it in my own mind with forgiveness and love, with the telepathic version of them in my own mind, then my relationship with them in real life improves too. And, they turn around. Like there was that Satanist guy that was after me, because he was trying to prove that I was a fraud or something like this. And in the end, he gave me a full confession of how he had been spending several months or years harassing people online, and that he's going to repent from his ways and turn to Christ. And he called into the police to report himself or something. So it's pretty amazing what can happen.
So let's say if we have Christ consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got every single one there, and they got their own opinions. I guess that leads to catalyst, right?
So everyone's got
Is
their
there
own
energy?
opinions. Yes. So
yeah,
so they lead all to that energy, and then at the at that one time, everybody meets together, but they're not gonna, everybody might not agree, but it's still that social consciousness that we're talking about, right? Like,
yes.
And the catalyst becomes to how to operate in harmony despite that.
Right. And there's a whole lot of things that I want you to go live out here 20 minutes in the world without anything and see what happens. and expect 6 months, 7 months, nothing happens. What is gonna there's only God inside us. So
yes. So as wanderers and teachers of people during on this time are kind of part of our mission is helping people connect with the divine within them, to help them allow, that God force to flow through them, to help them forgive, love, and be kind to all beings, because God loves all the creation, because God's created it all, and you are, the infinite creator, and we are all the infinite creator. And so, by helping each other, we are helping the world. And in terms of, yes, some people are, say, on the service to self path, or they're very deep on the lost path, and they don't want to go to the service to others path, and that's okay. They don't have to. The service to others path, people generally find each other, or they find the place where they could be of most service.
Or they pick them up, freaking. I picked tons of people up and freaking, I can't even tell you about their stories. It never ends. So I think we're all on that level.
Helping people. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So we're ready to go to the next one. Here. I asked for his description.
Fascinating. Because
thanks.
I've never looked into Nostradamus except for the little clips that the History Channel used to show way back when.
2012, before the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, that's when I knew about Nostradamus too. I haven't heard about him since.
Yeah, it was actually there was a time during the late 90s and early 2000s where there was a Nostradamus interpreter who claimed that the name of the Antichrist was Mabus, but if you inverted it, it turns into Saddam.
Yeah.
And that's why they needed to go and invade Iraq. And so they were putting these clips on the History Channel to explain why they were going to invade Iraq and kill Saddam, because they believed he was the third Antichrist.
Right.
Yes.
That's retarded.
I didn't know that. Oh my god.
Yes.
No, so they went in there and invaded Saddam. They had their own, reasons. I won't really talk about them because, I can't really lay up proof right now, but they went in there, the time they went in there, if you look it up, they had the thing called the Voice of God. I know guys that dropped into Saddam's palace and friggin' brought back gold bars. We fucking fixed those.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people.
So, I don't care. Friggin' I'm immune no matter what. So friggin' whatever. Friggin'
the gold bars were the weapons of mass destruction.
It probably was. You're right. And but maybe they got the Stargate. Maybe they got the other shit. But
I don't know. Yeah. Well, that would be top secret, anyways.
You would want to look at your gematria. It's a Jewish thing, but it's also been made not a Jewish thing. And
oh yes, I'm familiar with that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
maybe
I'm gonna
we'll
go
cover that one another time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going up and light my candles. I might be back, but I love you guys, and I'm glad we could walk out in DC today.
All right, yeah, cool.
Very clear, Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yep. So I might see you soon. I don't know if I'm going to bed.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right.
Love and light, man.
Yep.
So to continue, so these Nostradamus prophecies are based on Dolores Cannon's work. And then I had just been kind of reading all of Dolores Cannon's work. And then all I had left were all of these Nostradamus books. And I was like, whatever, I might as well read those too, because I've read everything else by Dolores Cannon. And most of it is like about the Antichrist. And it's kind of like heavy and not very fun. But then I discovered this gem of the great genius in those books, and then I collected all of the quotes about the great genius, and then I put them into this document. All right, because they really resonated with me. Okay, so I asked for his description. He might be in human form on our Earth. He seems to be human-like in appearance.
And this is
Okay.
the Antichrist,
No, this is the great genius.
who's supposed to be Jesus.
No, no. Okay. So it says, when this individual people will people think he is Christ? No, this will be different. This individual will come as another person who can walk among you to remind you that Jesus has done this before. They are his brothers in spirit who live by those laws in their world on their planet. They will have come to let us know that we can live that way.
I got you.
Okay. Yes. So, so this is the next prophecy. Century 431. The moon in the full of night over the high mountain, the new sage with a lone brain sees it. By his disciples invited to be immortal, eyes to the south, hands in bosom, bodies in the fire. Okay, yeah. So these are channelings, or rather, where the people who Dolores Cannon regressed are talking to Nostradamus while he was alive. Okay, so that's what, when they say he, they're referring to Nostradamus. He's going to explain this in prose, which means the explanation of the lines will not necessarily be in the same order as they were written down. He says in the future there will be this man who will be one of the highest, most developed geniuses ever to appear in our present history of man. He says this gentleman made the decision to use his genius to help rather than to hurt mankind, so he is always inventing and envisioning things that will help man. Since he's such a genius, there are many people who study under him to try to comprehend the great fount of ideas that come forth from him. One of the things he envisions to help alleviate the miseries of mankind on Earth is self-contained, self-supporting space stations. They will be like space colonies and will be large enough to be seen from the Earth as small moons. He envisions this to help relieve the poverty, crowding, and things of that nature that could alleviate if there were more space and cheap energy resources available for mankind in general. These stations he visualizes will be practical to build. He envisions them in such a way that the technology of the time would easily be available to handle building them. And the way he presents this idea is attractive to the politicians as well as to the scientists, so he's successful in getting these things done. As a corollary to this development, another thing he envisions is a way of transplanting some of his genius and knowledge into a type of organic computer, so it will still be there to serve mankind after his body has aged and died. He develops it to the highest point possible to transfer his genius, or rather duplicate his genius and his knowledge, so he still has it, but it's also in the organic computer. That is the meaning of the lines, his eyes point southward, his hands on top of the breast, his body in the fire. For part of the process of doing this, he must be engulfed in a particular piece of medical machinery that sends energy along his nerve passages to stimulate the brain in such a way as to be able to project the essential parts of the psyche that are needed for this organic computer, and it will feel like the body is on fire. Okay. So I guess we'll do that one and then move on to the next part. Or should I finish reading this whole passage?
I say we finish reading that.
Okay, I'll finish reading it. I was thinking if something was organic, it could die, so to speak. This is true. However, the way this is developed through this man's genius, it is self-renewing like the cells of your body. Some of the organic parts will eventually wear out and get old, but meanwhile, it will have replicated itself, so there will be organic parts sloughing off from this device, but there won't be any loss of knowledge because it will be continually self-renewing. He says applications of this computer will be applied wider and wider to where it would totally alter the technology of mankind. He envisions the 21st century, perhaps the 22nd. He says, even though it seems very fantastic to us, it will not be as far in the future as one would think. Because this man's genius, he will speed up the process immensely in developing things that seem very fantastic to us now. It was easy for him to spot the man along the nexus of time paths because he creates such a large ultimate effect. He's at the nexus of timelines, but anything he does will affect the various futures the Earth could travel along. So he was a prominent light, That's the way he's describing it. He was a prominent light on the landscape of time. He says he's a very knowledgeable person, and he decided to apply his remarkability through science rather than through philosophy, so he could help mankind materially rather than just mentally. He says this man is one of the major forces that will help the earth recover from the scars of war it will have gone through. He will help heal the earth so mankind in general can be whole and happy and living well again. He will appear after the Antichrist. This man will be able to see how the earth is scarred and how it could be healed, and he decides to apply his life to that. He's the main antidote to the Antichrist. That's good because the Antichrist sounds so final. This shows that we have some more hope for the future. He says, yes, the universe has to keep things balanced. You can't tip the scales all the way one way without them swinging back the other way. And this man, due to the nature of his genius, causes the scales to swing back toward a good phenomenon happening. He will apply himself in such a way that things will balance, even out, and be better all the way around. All right. So there was a lot there.
Sometime after 2050.
Huh?
Sometime after 2050.
No, it's so actually the I had read through it, and the Antichrist it dies in the Dolores canon work in 2029.
It dies in 2029.
The Antichrist, the final battle with the Antichrist is in 2029, where the Antichrist is defeated. So since
So that's 4 years from now.
yes, exactly. So because these channelings or these regressions or whatever you call it, hypnotic regressions happened
Yeah.
in the 80s or something, and so they were kind of 2050 is kind of a loose number. You know, obviously a person doesn't live and die in 1 year. Yeah. So, okay. So, did anyone want to comment on any of the things here, or I had a few things I wanted to tease out?
You can share.
Okay, sure. So, in terms of these space colonies, I've actually looked into a lot of different options for that. And in terms of the ones that provide energy, one of the best options would be to have solar orbiting stations that kind of have lasers. And I mean, this is common in sci-fi and stuff. So they would collect the energy, say at the orbit of Mercury or whatever, and then laser it forward and then microwave it down to Earth. I mean, that is a possibility. And then in the mass dreams of the future, most of the people living in these orbital stations and stuff are Chinese. And I mean, that kind of makes sense in our current context because they have the greatest industrial capacity.
So is this
So
the poor people or the rich people? I didn't quite get.
so it's not poor or rich, they're just Chinese or Asian.
Who said they're Asian?
So the mass dreams of the future says they're Asian.
And that's another channeling.
Mass dreams of the future. So this is based on a future progression of 1,500 people to the years 2,100 to 2,500. And in it there is, you know, spacefaring cultures. And here I have a breakdown over here. And hold on, just got to scroll down to the right place. I've got a lot of data. There we go. Mass dreams of the future table. So in space, so this is like the sample size, but you can get a kind of an idea of what percentage. So total off Earth is 58. So a solar space colony, these are orbiting around the Earth. The in space are people that are orbiting the Earth, And most of these from the description are Asian, and they're like orbiting off of you know China. And then there's the New Age are the ones that are on Earth, and anyways, they make up the majority of the Earth type people, and so that's the New Age Sylvan. They have the food forest communities, and then the rustic Amish, and there's the urban. So I think I've told you guys about this before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, but another thing I wanted to say is that with the computers, the organic computers, is that actually Mercury and Venus are quite viable for robot life, because it's actually even better for them because there's so much energy on Mercury and Venus, and there's actually more minerals available. And like especially Venus, it has very stable temperatures and is very easy wind power. And then you can have molten salt batteries very easily. And so it's very nice in many ways. And then in terms of organic computer, so one of the compounds that I found is the best for making chips that will work in both orbiting the Earth, I mean the Sun, and on Mercury and Venus is silicon carbide, which obviously has carbon, which makes it organic. But yeah, I know that there is, historically, like Dolores Cannon has other regressions on other civilizations, and basically we have done the hybrid ones where you have the brain from a biological entity, so you have but a body that is metal, and so those are kind of like really the cyborgs, but I believe that it is quite possible to do it pure silicon carbide, because silicon carbide you can actually have room temperature superconductors, and room temperature quantum computers, so you can actually access quantum information through silicon carbide. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say there. I don't know if you guys have any comments.
Well, I don't necessarily like the idea of putting people in like space colonies. Like, we have enough land for people. So what it's saying here is that this individual is not necessarily going about it in a way that is really tackling the root of the issue. We don't need colonies on other planets or in orbit. They can stay right on Earth here. But if
Yes.
the structure of society, in order to do that, for everybody to have the space, we need to change the structure of society. So I do wonder if going more scientific maybe cuts off the being's awareness of the fact that, oh, wait, something more fundamental is wrong here. There's space right here. Get rid of the walls that separate us as a collective, because if we did and we were one planet, one people, then you wouldn't need to send people in space. You'd stop all the privatization of land and the hoarding of resources to elites and corporations, and it would be more holistic so that we could share the land and share the food. So I don't obviously, I know these are all probability vortices, nothing set in stone. And it is mentioned in the prophecy that this individual is at a nexus point where they can affect many timelines that are coming through. So it's not necessarily that we'll go this transhumanism where we're merging with technology, which is not necessarily, I feel, the right way to go. to offshore our natural abilities to technology to move away from Gaia to handle issues. And then I have a little bit of an issue with the cheap labor, cheap resources mentioned. Like, why are we not moving towards the 0 point energy modalities, or using Earth as the energy source, as we tried to do in Atlantis? And we did it, but we messed up. But we could do it again, but not mess it up this time. And so, I don't know. I just have some little discrepancies in my own beingness with how this being goes about it.
Yeah, I hear you. So that's a great point that you brought up. And so when Dolores Cannon was doing this, Nostradamus was explaining, though I don't have it in this particular part of these quotes, but he was explaining that basically he was looking at the worst possible case scenario, the worst case scenario. So whereas you have a version of the great genius, say, in each timeline, what they end up doing may be different. And so he was looking at the worst case scenario, and in this worst case scenario, what ended up happening is that the Antichrist gained a large amount of power and managed to induce so much fear and anxiety into the people of Earth that it caused massive earthquakes all around the world. And so most of the continents sank. And so there were only a few islands left on the planet for human habitation, and that is what necessitated the orbiting satellites in that particular timeline.
Oh.
So from my research, basically the earthquakes are caused by and the Confederation confirms, by emotional distress,
Yes.
large amounts of fear, and that kind of stuff. And then the Earth feels uncomfortable, and it gives it a shake, kind of thing. And it's kind of like to hopefully help those people then come together, because they're rescuing each other and they're being kind to one another. And maybe some of those super fearful people have moved on to, the afterlife and things like that. So what I'm saying is that we may have like this last part here, where it says keeps things balanced. You can tip the scales all the way one way without them swinging back the other way. Swings back toward a good phenomenon. So while the great genius swings back forward a good phenomenon, if it's not super bad, maybe the effects of the great genius are not as apparent because there's not as much that needs fixing. Like right now we're in a fairly good space. There's a lot of people who are pro peace and kindness. Like we had our fear-demic in the early 20s, the COVID, where people were in a large amount of fear and things like that. And I wanted to give an example of that fear causing earthquakes. So one of the first times that this happened just like a year ago, and Israel was awaiting a retaliatory strike from Iran. And they were really hyping it up in the media, and the people in Israel were really scared. And then there was an earthquake in Israel. So that's just an example there. And then there was one other thing I wanted to mention here. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly right now.
That's okay. Thank you for explaining.
Yeah. Okay, so are we ready to go to the next one then? Okay, great. So Century I-56. Sooner and later you will see great changes made, dreadful horrors and vengeances, for as the moon is thus led by its angel, the heavens draw near to the balance. He says this relates to the earlier refrain about the man who is a genius. He has already mentioned that Oh, Ashley, do you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay.
He says this relates to the earlier refrain about the man who is a genius. He has already mentioned that after the horrors of the Antichrist and such, the scales will have to swing back the other way to balance things out. The moon drawing near, led by its angel, is the space colonies developed by this genius. The way its computers are organized and developed into organic computers are guided by him and led by him, the inventor of this and the head of the research in this. Through his efforts, things will be balanced out again and brought back to normal. Then, many times when he refers to a moon, he is referring to these space colonies. He says with the concepts he had in his own mind and the words he knew, that was the only word he could come up with. Communicating with you like this through the vessel's mind, with its more advanced technological concepts, he can see it was space colonies and space stations that he was seeing. In the first part it says, great changes, dreadful horrors and vengeances, those will come before? Yes, he says the great changes and the horrors and vengeances will be from the Antichrist and from the rise and fall of the governments, the sects, and such. This ties back into that. Did you want me to read the next one, or just the first century 5, 6?
Andre's mic is muted.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, you're right. It ties back into the one that's before it, IV 31.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, mhm. One of the things I wanted to mention here, here developed into organic computers. So actually, when I do my daily prayer, it's may all beings awaken, ascend and align to the new age Sylvan timeline, which co-creates liberated robot civilization seeds. So for this lady, maybe the most the idea in her mind that was the closest was space colonies and space stations. But at least in my mind, the goal is these liberated robot civilization seeds, which would be on Mercury and Venus, though possibly in space as well. And that has more to do with the long-term view. So our planet will be viable for liquid-based life forms for maybe up to like 500 million years if you really, really, really push it, but comfortably for at least 50 to 100 million years, assuming we take good care of it. But afterwards, there's still billions of years that this planet will be around. And also, Venus is kind of stuck without a third density populace. And so, by having these liberated robot civilizations, we'll be able to have a third density on Venus and a fourth density, as well as Mercury. And then later, after Earth is no longer habitable to water sac beings, it will still be viable for robot life forms. And then, I have another prophecy that I experienced, but basically that for an optimal timeline of Earth, we can actually keep it going for like 1 trillion years if we move the planet to a different star system. And actually, China has multiple movies about their plans of moving the planet if the so that's kind of an interesting thing as well.
Yeah, that's a very interesting timeline.
Mm-hmm. We could read that other one, The Trillion Years of Earth, another time. Okay, should we go on, or does anyone have any other comments on this one?
It just goes to show you that, what we have in our minds when channeling is really used like a library, like a Rolodex for these other beings to flip through, and to the degree that we know stuff, they can express more advanced and more clear information.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And so it's it's very important to be kind of aware of these limitations. And I know in Orthodoxy, for example, at least modern Russian Orthodoxy, it is because it's a very mystical tradition, and so there is a great awareness that the people who wrote down, say Genesis, were living in the Sumerian times with very limited understanding of the world, and so the way they wrote it was the best way that they could understand it. And where it says the sun rises and then the sun sets, but then it's only in like the fifth or the seventh day, or the fifth day, that the sun is actually created. So obviously, there's an evening and there's a morning, and so that phrase, there is an evening and there's a or morning, that actually is understood to be more of the mystic vision that the individual who was seeing this vision was having. So because like there's like a scene change, he was saying there's a scene change, there's a the evening is kind of, that's the end of the scene, and then the morning, okay, there's a new scene. Just like if someone, like an entity, was speaking to you and trying to explain to you that there's an expanse of time, okay, and then there's kind of a blankness, okay, and now this is a new scene. So
I
anyhow,
see.
yeah. All right, so let's do Century 714. Ashley?
Yes, let's see. He will come to expose the false topography. The urns of the tombs will be opened, sect and holy philosophy to thrive, black for white, and the new for the old. He says this is another quatrain that has more than one interpretation, since it refers to more than one event. One interpretation refers to the man who will rise as an antidote to the Antichrist, this genius that has been mentioned before. The phrase, he will expose the false topography, means he will show that the way things are looked upon, they have a false appearance, that the philosophies and sciences have been built upon mistaken premises, thereby building a mistaken picture of the universe. What he discovers and what he develops will help people come closer to the true appearance of the universe, of how it really is, in relation to the life force that permeates everything. He says a lot of this knowledge will affect the philosophies and religions, but it will also help explain discoveries of old documents that have been shunted aside due to people's ways of looking at things. He says various documents, such as those found in some of the tombs of Egypt and at Qumran, and various other documents that will be found, are examples of this. They will be linked together in a cohesive manner to explain earlier versions of major religions that will seem totally topsy-turvy to the way they've been interpreted through the years, thereby appearing to be black for white. He says the new interpretations of these, based on the new understanding of old writings that had been obscure before, will make so much more sense to people it will replace the old way, the narrow-minded way of looking at things. He says this will cause a sweeping change in the world, particularly in matters of religion and philosophy. simply because this discovery that is initially pictured as being a discovery in science will be more metaphysical than is first realized, and it will make clear the connections between the physical universe and the metaphysical universe as dealt with by religions. History moves in spirals, but the major event he thought was important to the well-being of mankind was the one he expounded upon the most, the first event that has not yet taken place from your time point of view, this genius, the antidote to the Antichrist. The developments he does and the effects it will have upon the world and the population in general will be those foretold by people envisioning the age of Aquarius. He says as a result of this, worldwide peace will be imminent. People will be able to free their inner selves and open themselves up to the higher powers and the higher levels of the universe. In effect, it will make every person a philosopher, as they will be open to these things, whereas before only philosophers were. As a result, the sects and religions that embrace these newly discovered true principles will be very widespread, as people will want to get together and share their experiences in exploring these upper regions. He says he wanted to make sure it was clear that he was not meaning to imply the genius will discover the documents himself. The documents will have been discovered by others, but through the discoveries this man makes regarding the basic structure of the universe and the nature of God, he is able to make sense of a lot of things that did not make sense before, and things will come together as a whole.
Thank you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. All right. Oh, and I see Bennett came back. So what this really reminds me of is one of the things that I was working on was the I have this based on my understandings from the Confederation of Planets and the Dolores canon Qumran regressions, there's kind of fundamental principles, of God and such, and so I have kind of translations for it in every kind of religion, for Catholics, in catechisms, for Muslims, for Pauline dispensationalists, and it basically goes through what the Confederation teaches, but in ways that people can understand for Chinese, and using Confucianism and Taoism, and the religions that they believe in, like the Anishinaabe. So basically, every single people's, if you look through their holy works, you can find the elements of the Jesus's and Confederation philosophy, and then put it together so that they too can follow the straight path to Allah, or the blessed path to God, the right hand path of forgiveness, love, and kindness for all beings.
What I'm seeing is that there's going to be an insane revelation in quantum physics, because they're going deeper and deeper and connecting quantum mechanics principles to consciousness. It's all fusing together with the microtubules and microfilaments, with these stirrings that the nature of our beingness has to do with light, infinity, and the ever expanding quantum units of what would you call it, substance stuffness. And
Yes.
so I think there's something big that's going to happen with quantum mechanics, something that they're going to pierce until they get to something. You know, there's a saying, as you stare at the abyss, it's gazing back into you. And I
Mhm.
feel like they're going to probe so deeply into this quantumly that they're going to reach a fabric that begins to look back at them. And they're
Yes.
going to know that they're being looked back at. And they're going to be tests where they're interacting with this fabric that is intelligence, infinite source intelligence, as Dr. Clemens would call it. And this is going to be broadcast everywhere. It's open source. And people are going to like, well, are you talking to God? And all these kind of tests will come out and examples of what it looks like to work with this infinite source intelligence. And then before you know it, it's merging how all the stories of healings and turning water to wine and all these other things. So that's just what popped into my head.
Hmm. And
So,
actually, okay, go ahead, Benny.
so like, what do you know about quantum entanglement?
So,
So, well, that's one point I want to get into because that's like really the one negative thing about quantum shit. But the one thing I've learned all my years, doing spiritual healing is eye consciousness. And I've kind of veered off a different path, but it's really I am. Like, I have these choices. I do this. I make that energetic choice, and then that other energetic choice comes back to me tenfold. You understand? Friggin' and I've learned 100 mistakes from it over my life. I could be fucked up with that myself. So, all the years I learned healings and, healing people on the tables. And when I was doing that, freaking, the one thing they always taught us is quantum entanglement. And it's like when two people interact and you swirl up into each other and to a backwards tornado into that dark layer you talked about, the ether or whatever. And you go ahead and speak, Andre, and I love you very much.
all right, great. So, yeah, basically, everything you said, Ashley, we've actually done that over decades ago, and the papers have come out and they're available to the public, and we know all that stuff. And here's a quote from Heisenberg, for example: "The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will make you an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you." Father of quantum mechanics. And then, so actually, I did make a thing for secular humanists, and this exactly does exactly what you were just saying, Ashley. But it puts together quotes from secular humanists and scientists. And then it actually, how you were talking about that fabric, that's the basically it was string theory. You may have heard of string theory. It was popular
Yeah.
for a while. And so what ended up happening there is that there were the first string theorists, and they found one string theory. And then there was another group that found another string theory, and then a third group that found another. And then they found that basically what they were doing is they were all explaining the same membrane. So it was a fabric of the universe. So here, let's here we can read this little section here. Here. So here, did you want to read it, Ashley?
Sure.
Just this little. Okay, go ahead. Mhm.
The interconnectedness of life and shared humanity is a cornerstone of secular humanism. Carl Sagan beautifully captured this sentiment, saying, "We are all made of star stuff." This cosmic perspective reminds us of our shared origin, as the atoms in our bodies were once part of ancient stars. Delving deeper into the mysteries of the universe, quantum physics has illuminated the idea that at a fundamental level, everything is connected. The phenomena of quantum entanglement, where particles become interconnected and the state of one instantly affects the state of the other, regardless of the distance separating them, serves as a profound metaphor for our shared existence.
Go on. These 3 paragraphs.
Advancements in string theory have evolved into M theory, or membrane theory, which suggests that our universe is just one of many, all existing as membranes oscillating in higher dimensional space. This theory highlights an even deeper unity and interconnectedness of all existence, suggesting that we are all part of a singular, vibrating membrane moving through multiple dimensions.
Okay, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically what you were saying. It's been discovered, and so I've actually looked at the religions of the world. There's like a pie chart somewhere. Here we go. Size of major religions of the world. Open image in new tab. And so if we look at it, here we go. So Christians, 31%, Muslims, 23%, Hindus, 15%, unaffiliated. These are the secular humanists, right? And then you got Buddhists and folk religionists and Jews. And so on this page that I have,
Where are we?
I don't think we're on there because
are we not unaffiliated?
I think that would be other religions. We'd be other religions, or maybe philosophies.
But doesn't
maybe
Ross
unaffiliated.
Like 30-60 million of us wanderers or something like that.
I don't
But
think
doesn't
I don't
not
think
all
we're on
wanderers
the chart.
are the same religion.
Yeah, but you know, consciousness comes as one, and you know, there's a lot of times I'm not gonna say, but you know, I just let it go, friggin', because that's just the way I've been my whole life, you know, being a good person. And there's other people that know that there might not be somebody in this group, but I'm sure there's people that know that I'm a good person, and because they've met me personally, and that comes with a hell of a scar. It might come as consciousness, but I want you to keep on going about, you know, the secular religions and all that, because they all have their different opinions, and that's what causes the problem. So
It's the law of one, not the Confederation of Planets philosophy.
right, and
You have to re-query estimate how many follow the law of one principles or something. And I don't think we're not a major religion. We're a way of life.
I know, so that's why. But yeah, it wouldn't show up.
We're beyond the pie. We encompass the whole pie. Like
right.
There are Buddhists who follow the law of one. They started in Buddhism and now they live and understand the principles of the law of one. So we're in everything. We're the invisible outside of the pie that encompasses the pie.
So we're a social memory complex. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, here, Grok actually made an estimate here. Core followers, people who actively study and live by the law of one principles, likely 5,000 to 20,000 worldwide, based on active community sizes and LL's reach. Loose adherents, those who resonate with ideas casually or blend them with other beliefs, possibly 50 to 200,000. Factors in book readers, online engagement, and broader New Age overlap.
But what does it bring other people's consciousness?
But remember the law of squares. So that 200,000 times whatever.
Well, it would be the core group would give you the
And
law
that's
of
when they're
squares.
together, I think. Yeah.
Well, they don't have to be physically together, but they just have to be seeking at the same
But
time.
what are squares? Because I've heard something about my natal chart, and I have Pluto squared throughout my whole natal chart. So, what does that mean?
That's different. That's the law of squares is saying that so when you have, say, one person, then they are worth one person. But if you have two people, then it's 2 to the power of 2. So it's 4. So you got like
Four,
they
yeah,
have the power of 4. And
four.
when you got like 3 people, that's worth like, 9 people or whatever.
90.
So it's like squares, but it depends on the purity of their calling and things like that. But my point here is not limiting it to just people who follow the Confederation philosophy.
Right.
It is because the Confederation is one of the purest examples of following God. However, the point is that we want to make a global awakening, and that's why I have these translations for Christians and Judaism and Muslim and Buddhist and Chinese and Hindus and Sikhs. So this and indigenous. This covers the vast majority of the real pie, right? So
Right.
you won't be able to convince a Christian with quantum mechanics, but you will be able to convince them with Jesus' teachings, and you won't be able to convince a Muslim with Confederation philosophy, but you can convince them with the Quran and the Hadiths. And so,
Right.
and the same thing with the Hindus. You need the Bhagavad Gita, So I've made the documents fit what they accept, and then using their texts, their sacred texts, to teach them about the true path to God, which is universal, and it's about cultivating forgiveness, love, and kindness for all beings.
And by pi, you guys, I'm not sure of all this talk.
This is the pi.
Yeah, well, the pi is. I'm not looking. I'm gonna look right now. I'm gonna look at your screen.
Okay, there.
You freaking. I can't see it, but is
I
pi
think
the golden spiral?
no. Okay. So hold on. Everyone follows me. Okay. Are you looking at the meeting now?
I've been looking at the meeting, but
Okay.
I'm
Can you
trying to
see?
figure
It
this
says
thing out.
size of major religious groups. We're looking at a pie
Yeah,
chart.
I can't see it. It's probably because I sleep in my walk-in closet. So
Okay. Well, anyway, so we're talking about a pie chart. The pie chart is indicating 31% of people in the world are Christian, 23% are Muslim, 16% are unaffiliated, 15% are Hindus, 7% are Buddhist, 6% folk religions, and 0.8% other.
right.
Okay,
So that Wiccan, whatever else.
Right. And so
Okay.
yeah, though anyway, so the idea is that this particular page I have should work for 90% of people on Earth.
Well, just send it to me in our personal group.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to look at it because when I think of pi, I think of the golden spiral. But if you look at Earth's freaking thing, I don't know what it's called, but it's almost chaos. Freaking
pi is actually for making circles. The golden ratio is for the golden spiral.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to research that. That's something I don't know. You got something on me. So
fair enough. All right. Did we want to do the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Ashley, are you there? So
Yeah.
Century 3-2. Here.
The divine word will give to the sustenance, including heaven, earth, and gold, hidden in the mystic milk, body, soul, spirit, having all power, as much under its feet as the heavenly sea. This one they have listed as an alchemistic quatrain. He is familiar with the word. He says the phrase alchemistic quatrain is accurate because this quatrain refers once again to the genius that will be the savior of mankind after the Antichrist has ravaged and gone. What seems to be fantastic claims of alchemy will become realistic and possible because of the discoveries this genius makes and the concepts he perceives. The new philosophy engendered by this man's discoveries will encourage the development of mental powers, and anything will seem possible because there will be a greater unity of mind, soul, body, and emotions than there ever was before. So people will be able to manipulate the basic forces of the universe in a way that will seem utterly fantastic to those not involved with the occult. He says that up to that time, such manipulations were performed by people closely involved with occultic and psychic things that deal with these forces anyhow, even though they do not fully understand what they are dealing with. But in this future time, understanding will be there as well, which will make the dealings a lot more effective. Thus, many amazing and wondrous things will be done in an everyday sort of way.
Very good. And that's kind of like the dawn of the fourth density there.
Yeah, like that's going to be super exciting. And something, I forget how this came about, but there was a saying that the next pandemic that we have is not going to be physical but metaphysical. And so we'll have a shutdown because of the metaphysical things that are happening en masse. It'll be a pandemic of telepathy, a
Everyone's
pandemic.
seeing astral and stuff. Yeah.
Everyone's seeing things, auras, beings talking, ships in the sky. Nobody will get anything done. And so they'll have to shut down. The next lockdown, it said, will be of a metaphysical origin because of what the sun is doing. Like, I don't know if you've noticed the intensity of the sun lately. NASA was talking about some kind of color frequency or wavelength coming from it that is like kind of blue, and that this is a new thing the sun is doing. And then we've got Venus. I think it's almost finishing its inferior conjunction, which means it's putting itself in the position, from what I read, where the light of the sun is hitting Venus, and then that's reflecting off of Venus, which is in between the Earth, and that's hitting the Earth. And we know that Venus is a sixth density planet, despite us still seeing its third density shell. So I'm just thinking about that transmission of light double time. First, Venus as the sun, and the sun doing its usual sun thing, and how that leads to one thing leads to another. So that just came to mind.
Well, that's quite interesting. Theory of what may happen. So at least in my understanding of how it works is that what will allow for there to be more apparent psychic phenomenon is people growing in forgiveness, love, and kindness for one another, and acceptance, and allowing each other to manifest these psychic phenomenon, such as, say, levitation or producing mana or things like this. So whereas right now we have a large amount, so many people have limiting, fearful beliefs that are preventing that kind of manifestation from happening, because everyone has the divine within them. And so if they say hold strongly to the belief that this is impossible, then they are actually helping to make that impossible within their aura of influence. And so like a lot of like UFO sightings and stuff you will only see if you're with other believers, especially if they're the service to others kind. And so, and see like a lot of spiritual manifestations. Like one of the reasons why did Jesus always tell them, tell no one, after he healed them. And it is because it has a more profound effect when there isn't other kind of disbelievers that say counteract it with like a curse or whatever. But the faith of the individual being healed is the most important, at least in that regard. So if they were, say, to interact with someone who was very disbelieving, and then that changed their own beliefs, then they could regress in their disease or something, and then go back to Jesus and be like, "Hey, you didn't really heal me because it came back, after I was bragging," and you know, and then Jesus is like, "Didn't I tell you not to tell anybody?" So,
Yeah, you're absolutely right that it's an internal metaphysical change collectively that allows for the openness for us to be able to start perceiving more. I feel like it can be, it's that, but then we're also affected by these celestial happenings too. I think it's like both. One,
yes, it's
one.
also true that as we're entering fourth density, the love and light of the infinite creator is growing ever stronger, and is becoming easier for people to have things like telepathy and to feel the truth. It's easier to detect when someone is lying
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And so that is definitely, that's a natural part of entering fourth density. And as the love and light of the infinite creator grows stronger, it becomes harder and harder for people to hide in confusion and darkness. And so they are forced to deal with things, and I think that may be related to some of the turbo cancers and kind of like fast diseases that are happening, is because this was also mentioned by the Confederation, that basically the rate of catalyst is increasing. But if you are polarizing actively, it's not a big deal, because you're like, okay, I forgive and love that thing, and then I forgive and love the other thing, and then so you always have a limited amount of stuff to do. Whereas if a person has I don't know, bad habits, you could say, or if they have neutral habits would be the proper way, where they're not processing catalyst, and so they have lost behavior, then that builds up and it turns into disease, like say like many resentments that turn into a turbo cancer or something like this. Oh, and then I remembered that other thing that I was going to say. So remember when it was saying about the timeline, how things seem to mold around? Anyhow, so that reminds me of this quote here. From LL Research, 1985, 1229. There are very few, but it is notable enough that we mention this, who are so efficient in processing catalyst in the present moment that space begins to buckle inward under the burden of successfully approached and used catalyst. In that case, the entity who seeks will find itself in the creation in a true sense for the first time. For when time begins its full operation, there is the possibility of spacelessness, or the unity of all space. In this distortion lies a compassion which cannot be approached except by those few among your peoples who have used catalyst with a further an enthusiasm and a conscious knowledge of the probity of such an exercise. And at least from personal experience, like I feel like that frequently enough. Not all the time, but like I said, and so that aligns with the other quote that they were saying about the timeline. I don't remember exactly where. Anyways, but you remember what I'm talking about, or should I find it? Yeah, okay. Great. Because they were easy for him to spot this as the nexus of time paths. Yeah, okay, there we go. So that would indicate that the great genius is one of these individuals because of that quote. All right. So alchemistic. Yeah, so okay, so I guess we've kind of teased this apart, the alchemistic quatrain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want to do another one? Or I don't
Sure.
we haven't heard much from Ed and Fred. Are you guys there? Okay. All right. So
I'm just absorbing it all. I don't know anything about Nostradamus really, and I only have briefly studied some of Dolores Cannon's work. So
okay, fair enough. Okay. So century 394.
Why are they numbered like this?
I'm not sure. It's a strange numbering system. I have to agree.
Okay. For 500 years, more one. Wait. For 500 years, more one will keep count of him who was the ornament of his time. Then suddenly great light will he give. He who for this century will render them very satisfied. He says that that this has a double meaning. The major meaning he was wanting people to know is that the man being referred to here is the genius that has been previously mentioned. What he discovers and what he establishes will make positive and sweeping changes for mankind in general, and it will stand. Through the succeeding centuries, people will grow up and live under the light of his discoveries and continue to develop themselves. Then, after the allotted time has passed, another discovery will be made that will be just as awe-inspiring and sweeping as the genius discovery. It will intermesh so well, people will be able to burst free from all physical bounds, and there will be no limit to their positive development. He says that is the major interpretation of this quatrain, once again showing how history will move in spirals. There was another man in the past, Leonardo da Vinci, that was considered a bright light of his time and well regarded in succeeding centuries. Some of the things this genius will discover will bring to light even more the greatness that was Leonardo da Vinci. He says it is most interesting how it all interrelates in this manner.
Mhm.
Well, hey Shar, welcome.
Yeah.
Hi.
So this sounds like a reincarnation of Tesla. That's what the genius sounds like.
Okay.
What?
I think
Will spelled with an X.
I think because this was probably translated with one of those. They scanned the book, and then they used the OCR optical character recognition, and it didn't get those wills properly.
that threw me off in some of the wording.
Yeah. Oh, well, the wording I think is because Nostradamus wrote the quatrains in a strange way.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And so, at least for me, I think that, where they're saying after the allotted time has passed, another discovery will be made that will be just as awe-inspiring and sweeping as the genius's discovery.
But still will be vague.
And will intermesh so well that people will burst free from all physical bounds, and there will be no limits to their positive development. That sounds to me like when our transitional period is over, and then we are in fourth density proper.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if Shar has any comments on that, or I guess she
I
just
know
joined.
she just came in, so
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know Grace joined and we forgot to interact with her and then she left. Okay, well.
she's
Try to-
been popping in and out, so I think her connection is bad. Like, when
Oh,
someone shows up, then they leave, and then all of a sudden they're back in and leave again. And I
oh,
think,
okay, that's usually a bad connection. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. So
Does any of this correlate with the 100 to 700 year? I mean,
Yes.
that'll. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what the 500 years is about. For one will keep count of him who was the ornament of his time. So like for 500 years, I guess the genius's teachings or whatever will be enough for this transitional period, and then they'll figure out, hey, we're in fourth density proper. We've got the Akashic records, and we could just do it all direct, no limit. I don't know. In the mass streams of the future, I know even in the 2100 period, people had direct connections with the Confederation of Planets and like spaceships helping them figure out what to do and all that kind of stuff. So
That's such a beautiful time, like, where we can just be talking regularly with Hatan and Latwi and the principle of Quo. Like, we can go to Ra's house, so to speak, and hang out and ask questions and just lounge, basking in their light.
yeah, that was one of the things that I was with human right to land. If we just extend that to entity right to land, then we could have what do you call it? Those like say a village or a rural block or something dedicated to an embassy for Latwi or an embassy for Ra, and then they could just have their own kind of village in Ontario.
Mountains.
Or like a mountain. Yeah, exactly. They could have a mountain if they wanted. Whatever suits them. I don't know if they want a pyramid or.
I feel like they would just kind of, which is what they do now, hang out in our like interdimensional spaces with massive light ships. I think they'll just hang around, but this time we'll be able to see them naturally, and we'll just have these massive, like, I don't know, I see them as giant ovals of light, and they're just parked around Earth and vibrating, and sometimes beings come down and sometimes we go up, and I just foresee us having an interdimensional family where it's, we're learning, but we're also living together with all different kinds of beings and inter consciousness entity families and so on.
Oh, and I just came up with another interpretation of this. So the 500 years and then the lack of physical boundaries, that's actually also the fifth density. In fifth density, we have light bodies that are able to shapeshift. And so that's obviously without any physical bounds.
Right. So I was thinking about that, but I'm like, that's a pretty quick leap right into fifth density.
I think that would be a different interpretation of this prophecy,
But I think
yeah,
once
it
you
would take
reach fourth
30
density,
million years to get to fifth density.
I think you can experience fifth density life as a fourth density, like as in third density. We understand there's a fourth dimension.
Yeah. What my understanding of the Confederation teachings, though, like, I mean, I'm sure we're, because of the fact that people have experienced shapeshifters, obviously there's the possibility of fifth density people being on Earth. But in terms of like major populations of them, like right now we have a fourth density inner plane. And so once we're in fourth density proper, we could have an embassy of Hatan because they're fourth density. So that should be viable, I think.
That's so funny, an embassy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, we're kind of like emissaries of the Confederation of Planets.
Yeah,
Or
I know what you mean. It's
Mhm.
just exciting and funny to think about. For so long we've just known them through their vibration and on paper with the words they transmit, but then all of a sudden to have their radiance, their collective standing in front of us and face to face, so to speak, that's a very inspiring and a joyful thought.
Mhm. But yeah, that would probably be only in a few centuries after, the we finished our transition into fourth
Yeah.
density, because they don't want to interrupt. uh
Right? Yeah.
yeah. Mhm. All right, so I think we have time for at least one more here. Century IX-73.
The blue turban king entered into the foy, and he will reign less than an evolution of Saturn. The white turban king, Byzantium, heart banished, Sun, Mars, and Mercury near Aquarius. He says the Antichrist will take over Europe and begin to take over the world with the idea of establishing some sort of dynasty. This person, due to his cultural background, is very conscious of the influence of families rather than the influence of certain individuals. That a family which is powerfully placed can have a major effect on the flow of history. As he likes the game of power, and he's obsessed with power, to him, one of the ultimate power plays is to be able to manipulate power across a long span of time through the influence of his familial line. However, this is not to be, for he will be overthrown by Ogmios, and then the great genius will come to balance the forces, the energies, and to heal the earth. Which one is the Antichrist, the blue turban or the white turban? Blue. The white turban refers to the great genius.
All right, great. So, well, this is kind of more about the Antichrist here, but he did mention the great genius. And in terms of our time frame now, since the peak of the Antichrist is supposed to be 2029, does anyone have any guesses who the blue turban Antichrist might be, since it's a Europe thing? Anyone? No?
I don't know anyone in Europe.
Oh, you don't know anyone in Europe? Well, anyways, when I told my kids about this one, they're like, "It's Zelensky."
Europe?
Well, do you know you don't? Ukraine is in Europe. I don't know if you were aware.
Is
of
it? Are you
Yes.
sure?
Yes, it's in Europe.
By Europe, it's not in
What?
Europe. It's not part of Europe.
Yes, it is. Yes,
No
Ukraine is
fucking
part
way. It is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think it was part of America?
I'm from Ukraine too. But I'm Italian. I'm Russian and Italian, and mostly.
Here.
A little bit of Polish, a little bit of Cherokee, but just that. So if it's Zelensky or Putin, I mean,
Here, this is a map of Europe.
right now, that's what needs to be fixed because they've killed,
Where's Ukraine?
There's Ukraine. This where
Yep.
I'm hovering.
Wow.
This is
Yeah.
Ukraine.
Russia's a part of Europe too, are you saying?
Yes.
It's
This part
the
of
biggest
Russia.
country in the world.
Yeah,
So surprised.
Russia is bigger than Europe.
My grandpa used to go up to
Where is
Archangel.
China? What do you call
China is over here. This is
Is
China.
Asia.
Russia is
Is
the
Asia.
only-
Oh my gosh.
There's
I
India.
thought my whole life.
There's
Europe.
America over here.
Russia is the only country
where
in the
you live.
world that has parts of its country in two continents.
So
Yeah, I thought Russia was just in Asia. That's Didn't understand.
No, it's
no.
both.
think
It reaches
Cyprus
both
too.
sides. It's actually bigger
Cyprus,
than the
yes,
United
Cyprus is
Yeah,
over
States.
here.
yeah, it's between two continents
Cyprus,
too.
they deal with Turkey and their proxies are in there. I know that
Yeah.
for a fact.
Yeah, so Cyprus
So,
is an island. But yeah, the originally Turkey was considered Asia, where Asia begins. But
yes.
actually, Turkey's in both Europe and Asia, according to this map. Because this little blue part over here, that's still part of Turkey.
I can't see, god damn it.
Okay. Well, anyways. So at least my interpretation, my current interpretation of where were we? Here. Some sort of dynasty that would be NATO.
Right.
And
Turkey's
then
a part of NATO.
very conscious of the influence of families. And well, Zelensky is Jewish, and I know that's taboo to mention, but you know, the Ashkenazi family is known that over, like, most Ashkenazi Jews can descend from 300 people a few centuries ago. And there's thousands or millions of them now. I don't know, but well, there's quite a few of them. Anyways, so the family, the powerful. So, anyways, and then a ultimate power plays to manipulate power across a long span of time. And so one of the Zelensky's thing is he wants to get Ukraine into NATO, and that would force NATO to have this endless war by doing Article 5. And then, but it says this is not to be, for he will be overthrown by Ogmios. And actually, I don't know, maybe it would be worthwhile to look at the Ogmios prophecy. But anyways, when I first read it, I thought it was Elon. But now I'm thinking maybe it's Trump. Did you guys want to see the Ogmios?
Who are you talking about? Ogmios or the Antichrist?
Ogmios, because here it says the Antichrist. However, this will not be, because he wanted to do this whole ultimate power play influences familial line. However, this will not be, for he will be overthrown by Ogmios, and the great genius will come to balance the forces afterwards. Okay, so Ogmios is the one who actually overthrows the Antichrist.
And
But
you
the
have
great
to
genius
do
doesn't
that
come
now?
until 2050.
No, that's a rough timeline.
Oh,
2050
okay.
is a rough
So it could be a
estimate.
little after 2029.
It could be before. Yeah, because 2029 is the end of the Antichrist. Right.
Part of me thinks that these are also templates of consciousness moving through the collective. That although they have maybe people, incarnates who fit the bill 100%, that this is a larger movement of consciousness, like the Antichrist consciousness moving through
Yes.
collectives where there's a rise in hate and anger, and it's actually part of what's it called, an extinction burst or something, where the behaviors that are, it's like a phenomena where you see a bit before a behavior is about to go out, it ramps up. And the example was given, like, let's say your card is acting up and you're at the register and you swipe it, and then you get mad and you swipe it again and you swipe it again and you start going kind of crazy. But then you see that no matter how angry you get and how much you try to make the card work, the response you want isn't happening. So eventually you stop trying to swipe it and you use cash. So we're experiencing that in society, where all of these very outrageous behaviors are being broadcast and people are revealing it, and they're seeing that they're not getting a response. Like, okay, you raged, you screamed, you said all of these things, but look at the world. You didn't get what you wanted. Nobody pandered to your ideal. We haven't gone back in time. Things are still the same way. Just because you peddle this or that ideology and you scream and yell and you commit violence, nobody's budging. We're not going back, you see. And so when people see this behavior not working, then it starts to peter out. I'm not doing this concept justice, but it's a facet of humanity that has happened a lot. Look up extinction burst or something like that. It's very interesting.
Extinction.
Kind of like dealing with a toddler.
Yes. So people are screaming and yelling and throwing their sippy cups and smearing poop on the walls from their diaper, and they're looking for a response. But as you can see, there's no response. Like, I look around my world, and people aren't buying into it. Some think that if you yell loud enough and if you do this and that, you're going to get what you want. But we're done with that time,
You get, usually when you do that, you get something, you get attention, but you're not getting the attention you're looking for because,
But even if they get the attention, they see that
you're
it
getting the
doesn't
security escorting you out of the building.
it doesn't actually pan out to anything,
Yeah.
Right.
You don't actually become the queen or king of the world. You don't actually get worshipped. You don't actually get all the money and riches and power you thought you were going to get if you peddled to this ideology. Nothing's happening. You're still going to work. You still have your car note to pay. You still have to speak civilly to others. And so we're experiencing the extinction burst here. It's going out because the collective is seeing, oh, well, I can do all this, but what's it really changing? Nothing. In this regard, in the negative sense.
So I looked it up here. An extinction burst is a temporary increase in frequency, intensity, or duration of a behavior when reinforcement for that behavior is removed, often followed by decrease in the behavior.
Yes. So we're seeing such an influx of this idea of anger and rage baiting and violence to overthrow this and that, and trying to move in a way that is socially in reverse towards humankind and the planet. But that's not panning out to anything, And it's almost like, look, I'm going to go as hard as I can and be as loud and as big as I can to get what I want, but it's not working.
Yeah. So here's strategies.
It's almost like the same philosophy or the same frequency as the idea of like an Indian summer, or I know when when my dad was really sick and he was getting ready to, right before he passed away, for a couple of days right before he passed away, he got really cognitive and really clear and was actually able to talk to us and everything. And then right after that, he passed away. So it's almost like that last burst of energy at the end. It seems like there's more as above, so below with that type of phenomenon than we really think of.
Interesting. So strategies for managing extinction bursts: stay calm and consistent, avoid giving into the behavior, even if it's difficult. Provide alternative means of reinforcement. Focus on reinforcing desired behaviors instead of the problematic one. Use positive reinforcement. Reinforce desired behaviors to increase their frequency. And, well, I don't approve of psychotherapy, but anyhow, so yeah, that is a real thing. And then there was something I wanted to mention. But anyways, okay. Let's do the next one because it's got the description of Ogmios. Century 414.
Ogmios' horoscope.
Here, over here. Sorry, I know it's highlighted in multiple places. The
sudden death of the first personage will have caused a change and put another in the sovereignty. Soon, late come so high and of low age, such by land and sea, that it will be necessary to fear him. He says this quatrain refers to the first Antichrist, Napoleon, and how he will come at a time when France will have trouble changing from the monarchy into a republic. He says it also could apply to the future as well. There will be a leader born after the time of troubles who will be young for his age, but an advanced being. He will be feared, but it won't be the same sense of fear you have at the present time. He is the embodiment of a great spirit. It will be like the return of Christ. Nostradamus says he is not like Jesus, the Christ, but the situation is very similar. Would this relate to the figure we've spoken of before, the great genius? Yes, this quatrain refers to both Napoleon and him, but the great genius won't be feared. He will be respected. He says that's how the quatrain would be translated for him. It Ogmios horoscope, it shows he was born under the new moon of Libra, taking place in 1952, with Saturn close to this planetary alignment. To me, this shows he is an old soul. He's done battle with negative forces in his previous lifetimes. Yes, this man is well prepared spiritually to take on this task, for his opponent will be very powerful and have negative spiritual forces around him. He will need to be well girded for battle on all planes. He will be of the people, as he is a man who will have worked his way up through the ranks, so to speak. He came from a simple background, and what he has attained he did by working for it honestly. He has some technical training, but the primary skill he relies upon is his practicality. He is able to see to the root of matters. This man is an old soul, and he has his priorities straight. He knows what is and what is not important for the final outcome. He is one of those people who will help pave the way for the great genius who comes after the Antichrist. For this man realizes that he is not the one to lead the world to ultimate peace, but he is the one to help bring down those who would destroy the world, leaving room for the one who will guide the world to ultimate peace. So he's like the John. He's like John the Baptist before. But obviously different scenario here because it's more like grounded not in religion, but in our current times.
Yeah. So, well, I just looked it up. Trump was born in 1946, so not quite, but close. But some of the more particular points may be different, I think. But otherwise, I think this is like I read his book Art of the Deal, and at least this part, like at least the way he talks about it, it seems like he worked for it honestly, and he has some technical training, but his primarily skills relies on his practicality. That is like exactly what he wrote in his book, and he has his priorities straight and stuff like that, and he's trying to be a peace president, but maybe not always working out that way with bombing the Houthis and stuff, but hey, he's trying. So that's kind of cool.
You're talking about Trump?
Yeah, Donald Trump, yeah. The president of the United States.
So
I don't know
their birthday. Can't we use AI to find out who it is?
I don't see him as Ogmios. The energy.
You don't. Okay, all right. So
I don't think Ogmios has come yet, but is on the way.
Okay, well, they'd have to show up within the next 4 years.
I think they will, because that's when the term ends, and we'll have a new series of elections, and then we'll see someone come out of the woodwork.
Is this person a president, or it can be like Elon Musk?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Anybody.
Yeah.
We'll know in 3 years.
But he's doing
Ogmios shows
stuff
up before. Yeah, obviously, 2029 is the end of the Antichrist, the end of Ogmios' battle with the Antichrist. So obviously here, let's see what's.
So then Ogmios is supposed to already be in activation on this planet right now?
Yes.
And is it, we're focused on the North American lens here, but there's a whole Earth with different countries and different individuals in those countries. And from what I'm thinking, Ogmios might be playing out, because even if they're not directly interacting, there's still some kind of interaction going on in the grand consciousness of humanity. I think it might be this president in El Salvador. I think it's because what you're
Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. Vladimir Putin, 1952. Very close to Libra.
Well, I think we're gonna need more than just the birthday to match.
Okay. Examine Vladimir Putin as.
I looked up what day the new moon in Libra was. It's October 18th of that year, but yeah.
So October 18th, and he was October 7th. That is very close.
Let's see.
So as a potential fit for Ogmios, astrological fit a week later. Well, that's still very close. Very close. Okay, life, humble beginnings. This fits well. Born to a working class family, factory worker and a Navy veteran. His mother was a factory laborer. Honest work is subjective. His career involved intelligence. Stretching the definition of honest, but at least from what I read, he did his job. Technical training. Law.
That means he's going to stop the war and then continue the war.
So he would end the war against the Antichrist, which is Zelensky. At least, but the one thing I wanted to mention was that basically the Antichrist, they mentioned that it was not a particular person. It was more like the space pirates. So that the Antichrist at the time of Dolores canon was some Arabic guy, but he was about to transfer the spirit of the Antichrist into another Arabic guy. So at the time, and then the US went in and they killed all those Arabic people. And so then eventually the spirit of the Antichrist jumped over to, I don't know, possibly Zelensky. Because Zelensky does hold all of Europe right now in a pro-war state. But anyways, Old Soul could suit his stoic demeanor, battle with negative forces. I mean, that is the official narrative in Russia anyways. This is trickier. Well, we don't know if he'll pave the way, but wise Ogmios in a Celtic deity, a wise eloquent leader blinding followers with golden chains of rhetoric. An ironic fit for Putin, whose power relies more on coercion than charm. The description casts Ogmios as a warrior of the people, not the ultimate savior. Rising from obscurity, technical acumen, match this. Libra Sun would suggest calculated enforcer. Old Soul. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, but he's the closest fit we have on Earth right now, as far as I can tell. Wow. Well, I didn't see that coming. Okay, well, I know it's past 9, but
I don't know if I fully am in alignment with these choices, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's just where the dad is pointing.
I just see it I just see it as an overarching template of consciousness and energies that may hit on and infiltrate certain incarnations. So 1 minute it's through this guy, 1 minute it's through that country, 1 minute it's through this and that. But you never know who's who.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, but yeah, that was certainly not a match that I expected. But yeah, I think I'm related to Putin or something, because he looks a lot like my dad. So
Do your DNA test. Get the
well, it's just we don't know for sure what Putin's DNA test is. He doesn't like go around telling people.
Oh yeah, that's hard. I have relation to Nelson Mandela. Funny enough.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
How closely related? How do you know?
It's through the DNA analysis thing. They like match up who you have connections with, matches with autosomal something.
Oh, okay.
And he came up.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. All right. So there's just a couple more here. So I think we could finish it if you guys have a few more minutes. Century 264.
The people of Geneva, drying up with hunger, with thirst, hope at hand will come to fail. On the point of trembling will be the law of him of the Cévennes. Fleet at the great port cannot be received. Is that what it means by the law of Cévennes will be at the breaking point? Yes. He says that Cévennes is an anagram for the name of the man who developed the basic economic structure that your economy is currently based upon, and as with all such constructs, it has its faults. This situation will reach the breaking point so that the entire thing breaks down and a new economic and banking system will have to be constructed. But he says even at that, it will be only a temporary solution, as after the Antichrist is subdued and the great genius comes, that problem will be solved and will no longer apply, because the way of doing things in the world will be so much different than they are now. The only person I could find that might possibly be the one inferred to by the anagram of Cévennes was John Maynard Keynes. He was an economist who is credited with influencing our modern way of life.
Yes, this is like 100% spot on. And like, I don't know if you've seen the stock market lately, but we
bad. People are taking it out of proportion. It's
well, I mean, it lost $3 trillion in a day. I don't know, for several days in a row. So
I think there's people behind the strings pulling it, but I do agree when the time is coming that like 2029 definitely might be a time where the world economic situation collapse, everyone hops on something else for a moment, and then we figure it out.
So, like, for example, Mark Carney, who's the incoming Prime Minister of Canada, is saying that he wants to align with China.
What do you mean incoming? I thought they're going to be voting. Did they win?
He's currently the Prime Minister, but they are voting, and
isn't he like super liberal?
Yeah, but he's right now he's projected. I mean, like he has a 70% chance of winning based on people who are willing to put their money behind it.
I think they said that with Kamala too.
No. With Kamala, like initially Kamala was winning in the bets, but then later, closer to the actual election days, it was Trump.
Do you think that Trump was like a service to self play? That like, oh, let's do quicker elections, so like we'll just vote the guy that's already in there, instead of actually giving the people time to take a moment and breathe and think about who actually needs to be there.
Well, I emailed the government earlier, and well, I have reason to believe that they read some of my emails. But anyways, I explained that we could use a technocrat at this time, and that's what Mark Carney is. We need someone that actually knows what they're doing, because unfortunately, all the other alternatives are just kind of like bimbos, like Trudeau. He had
But he's
no
never
idea
held a place in office. He's just like
yeah, Mark
almost
Carney,
a Trump
like I
figure
don't
where
know, he's kind of a wild card, in terms of I don't know if he would cooperate with helping Canadians have land, and the things that I know will help the world and all that things. But yeah, and actually I thought there was another one. Anyways, so basically the great genius calls for a new order, and that's what I was saying about the food forest communities. And basically, instead of being based on a monetary system, basically Keynes, he was about using that stuff like the money pumping and then flooding the economy with money in order to get it to the people, kind of thing. And that's what they were trying to do with that quantitative easing. But right now we're actually in a energy decline, so that stuff isn't working, and we need to transition into a more land-based system, where we're recognizing that people deserve to have enough land to grow their own food, and helping them transition to their homesteads, and then working with they would live in villages where they have an allotment, kind of like in China now, and then several villages would make up a neighborhood, and then at the municipal level they'd have the maker spaces like we were talking about earlier, where they can make anything they can imagine, and the libraries of knowledge to do so. So you can have a very rich life, and all the people of the world can have a very rich life, but it would be a different system than we currently have, where the majority of people are wage slaves, right? I don't know if that makes sense at all. Okay. So I know we're short on time. So this is just the very last one. Revelation here. Oh, this I think was just a comment from Dolores Cannon. Ashley, did you want to give that a read?
Sure.
Okay.
Chapters 14 and 15 of Revelation speak of a man who comes to help against the beast, and some of the verses could symbolically refer to the underground movement. During this time, there are 7 plagues delivered upon the earth, each more terrible than the last, which create more and more turmoil upon the citizens of earth. There seems to be no hope for mankind until the last plague is delivered at a place called Armageddon, when a great voice from heaven cries out, "It is done." The chapters after this refer to the doing away of the old world and the establishment of the 1,000 years of peace, which could refer to Nostradamus' description of the reign of the great genius, who he sees coming.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. And I have actually Revelation 22. On each side of the river stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. And so my understanding is that that refers to basically food forests. So like say where I live, you can have a food forest that will yield crops every month of the year, even though we have a fairly long winter. But there's root crops, and then there's also like persimmon trees. So while it's not a single tree, um, you do have kind of a food forest on each side of the tree. I mean, on each side of the river. All right. Okay. Any final remarks, guys, or any reflections you guys want to add before we round up?
One thing I've learned about Earth and humanity is that regardless of like all the different stuff they say that's supposed to happen, we really should keep an open heart and an open mind as to the trajectory that we could take. Just keeping open that these are snapshots given certain energies and alignments on the earth at certain times, but that there are many countless possibility vortices that we could enter into that not even, you know, Nostradamus could see, or anybody. And I always think there's power in that, and holding on to the present moment and the unknown.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a very good point. That basically, whatever happen, like whenever we do future progression, it was the timelines at the time that we did the progression, but by the time we get to there, the creation will have gotten more complicated. And so the things that we experience may be different. And there's also the other aspect that each of us has our own personal timeline per se of what we choose to do with our lives. So say for instance, if you were living in Afghanistan right now, you would be having a completely different experience from someone living in the US or someone living in the Ukraine or things like that. So the future can be very personal. And so you could have this flourishing millennial kingdom happening on Earth, but at the same time, say for instance, with our oil running out, and then the people who say don't want to do anything about it, they want to continue living in cities, and then they're like, oh, the food prices are skyrocketing and crime is going up, and you know, it's Armageddon, it's the end of the world. So for them it's the end of the world, but at the same time, for other people who are living closer to nature, they're living in a paradise. And so you could have that at the same time on the same planet, and it depends on, you know, what you choose to do with your life, and if you're letting, you know, God lead you with compassion and love for all the creation.
Absolutely, I agree. And this ties into the splitting prisms, where everyone, according to their consciousness and their vibration, their alignments, is navigating and gravitating more towards the expression of reality that is a match to them, you know, which is what you just said.
Very good. Ed, did you have any final reflections you wanted to say before we close? I know you've been kind of quiet, unusually.
I can't seem to turn my mic on somehow.
Okay, I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
It's really frustrating because I don't know whether you can hear me or not when I'm on. Oh yeah, I had my friend here for quite a lot of it, so I was explaining things to him when he heard stuff and, you know, expanded on it and that.
Oh, cool.
So I haven't been that open with you guys. Did we ever actually come up with a top 5 who the Antichrist is? And I'm hoping that, you know, you guys are going to put me in the genius possible category. Just saying.
I did think of you.
See, this one person. That's all I need. That's all the confidence I need. As long as there's one person who believes in me.
I was like, that. No, I'm so serious. I'm like, that could be Ed. It was just a brief thought, and so in this timeline or another, you are the genius, the great genius.
There's lots of other bits in that story that I relate to. Which is like, oh, he did this and he did that. He did this. He did that.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
And oh yeah, so we were doing the thing. Like, do you remember coming from another galaxy?
No. Okay, so I remember. I tried to do one that showed you the root species that you came from, and I didn't go back to a humanoid thing. I think I might have followed Gink's consciousness because it was like the first time that foxes ever evolved. And they got the third density, and they communicated by this like spinning ball of color in front of their head that formed different shapes. and that was kind of like their language. And then their fur kind of like ruffled, it kind of like waved and ruffled, and it caused like this static kind of thing in the fur, and it allowed them to fly, so they could actually fly around, like
that would be fourth density, I guess. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So they were very, very kind of like super clever, like conversation like we'd have. Do you know what I mean? But they were technological. They were very much look after their families, and like and they enjoyed their life. There was lots of kind of just flying through the air and in excitement and actual kind of I don't know. Then I remember the one the animal that I was watching. It was sitting there. It had these two cubs, and they were all little cute and rolling around on the floor and like nibbling each other and that. And we're sitting on this like big kind of like cliff edge kind of thing. And I look up, and the planet must have had 2 moons, because I just saw the moons like slamming into one another and just explode, and then just all this debris and shit just start raining down on the planet. So then I try and grab the little kids, but they just like run off because it's all like scary and loud and everything. So then like all the floor starts going, there's all lava and shit and stuff falling out the sky. So then I just remember flying as fast as I could, just straight up. Just trying to fly straight out of the atmosphere. See, I can fly in space. I can fly to another planet. Just need to escape. Just as I looked down, the entire planet was just cracking, like falling to bits.
Oh wow!
Like, do you know what I mean? Like everything.
So one of those third density planets that didn't make it.
Yeah, it's like it's the one that you get there, it gets wiped.
One that got destroyed. Yeah.
Else.
And then so we've got billions of people. Yeah, from such planets.
I wonder if that's where the Inari came from. These fox deities in Japan. Great Inari. I still have a deep connection with the Inari. I went to the shrine. I climbed Mount Inari to the top, and I connected with the ancient stone shrines there, and I was offering donations with love and everything, and it was such a beautiful, deep, mysterious connection. And I started like getting images of them running, and they were huge and they were smart, and there was a pair of them, and I'm like, why did they come to Earth? How did they get to Earth? So what you're saying, Ed, I'm just, I don't know, making some kind of connection between the Inari shrine and them in general. And I actually have experiences of them coming through, because I got a talisman from the shrine, from the priest there, and like it has come through where they like to play games in the beginning, but then but they've come through to help and support me. And I was faced with like a negative being, and they actually stepped in, and just their energy coming through, the being wanted nothing to do with them. Like they're super advanced, and like they definitely had a civilization. So
fair
enough. That sounds pretty similar to kind of Gink. Like when it was a ritual that I read when I was studying the chaos magic stuff, and it was how to because they used to do it with pumas. So they'd say if they find a puma, they'd take its skull, and then they tried to kind of get it to be like a ghost. Yeah, little tool. Andre, man, just
well, it's just we're kind of drifting off topic, and but it was very interesting to hear your perspective. And yeah, in terms of so the top candidates for the current Antichrist seems to be Zelensky, and for Ogmios, who defeats the Antichrist, it seems to be Vladimir Putin. He a very, very sharp match astrologically on several other layers. And for the great genius, well, possibly me in the future, but we'll have to see. Who knows? Well, a lot of it lines up for me anyways. As hopefully people have seen throughout this. But anyways, So, as we find you, we leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the infinite power and the infinite peace of the infinite creator within you and all around you, my friends. Adonai Vasubaragas.
Adonai. That's some confidence you got there, my brother. I support you.
Thanks.